Shashwat, I am very excited to talk to you about a movie today for IndieRise Presents with Kicking the Seat, Spotlight India. We're talking about Ra.One, a film that came out in 2011 and which somehow didn't do that well, or it wasn't as critically received as some other films that we've talked about. And I'm completely puzzled because I love this movie. Um, when we first started having these conversations, you were telling me about this actor named Shah Rukh Khan, or SRK as you refer to him in the shorthand. And you went on and on about how great he was. And we finally started watching and talking about movies that he's in. And every time I see a Shah Rukh Khan film, his estimation in my mind grows and grows and grows. He's always doing something different, along with the stuff that he's very comfortable with, as far as like action. But he can do drama, romance, comedy, which we see a lot of in the early part of this film. So yeah, I don't know. I know he's a huge star internationally, but we need to get SRK over to the States, to the UK. I don't know how, but not physically necessarily, although that'd be great. But we need to get a movement going to show everybody that SRK is the successor to every major Hollywood star, past or present, because he's amazing. And we're going to talk about a great performance he gives in this movie, Ra.One.
Correct.
But before we do that, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, well, I'm doing good. And how are you doing, firstly?
I'm awake now, and it's a little bit of behind the scenes business, but we went through this for about 10 minutes before I pressed record. So that's what you get for doing a podcast at 5 a.m. Central Time.
Yeah, that's the first time though for our podcast shoots. So yeah, nevertheless, quite an experience. So, like, yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. And well, I'm actually excited to talk about Ravan because Ravan, like, I saw the film for the first time when I was in grade three, which is like I was around 8 years old, something 8 9 years old. Yeah, 8 9 years old, something like that. And it's a very funny story because at that time I saw for the first time in real life how a film is being made. Like, I did not definitely see the making of Ravan in real life, but in my neighborhood there was actually a film shoot prior to 2 weeks of the release of Ravan, and for some very stupid reason I thought that Shah Rukh Khan has come to shoot Ravan because I didn't know that movies take that much time to make. It's a year long thing and everything. Now it's a different story, but at that time I didn't know. So I was very excited to see Shah Rukh Khan, but it turned out very disappointing. But nevertheless, it was made up 2 weeks later when I actually saw the film and in theaters, and I loved it as a kid, and I still love it. But as you were saying that, yeah, during the time when Ravan was released, it was not so well received with the like with the critics, and but over the time, in retrospection, it has kind of gained a cult status, especially for its advancement in visual effects and everything. So yeah, how did you like it? Like, just tell me about it. Like, I'm excited to know from you.
Well, it's great. I love the movie. Eh, Before we started talking, I asked you again, are we ever going to watch a bad movie from India? Because I don't. It's like I'm being punked. Either you're just deliberately showing me everything that's great and excluding the bad stuff, or it just doesn't exist. I find that hard to believe, but the proof is in the pudding, as they say. We keep getting better and better with these movies. Loved it. It also, I have this other problem where every year, about a month before Father's Day, I see a movie that's perfect for Father's Day. And I'm like, this is great, but why can't I see this around Father's Day? Because this is a movie that's perfect for people who want a great relationship film about fathers and sons, about functional married relationships involving kids, which we haven't seen those really in decades over here. But it's also a beautifully shot, almost like a comic book movie, but it's not based on a comic property. It's definitely science fiction, video games. The special effects are wonderful. The story has a kind of a unique message about villainy and the praise that villains and anti-heroes get in the culture, and how that needs to be balanced out by genuine heroism. But
Yes,
heroism is not inherently cool, right? Um,
exactly.
I will say that despite the fact that about halfway in, I realized that I was watching a family-friendly remake of Terminator 2, that did not bother me so much, because this film does have its own identity. It just pays a heavy homage to James Cameron's movie, and I feel
Yes.
like if you're gonna go that far in copying something, you got to do it right and give people a reason to watch, and they've definitely done that here.
Yeah, definitely. And like as you were telling about the father son thing, like a little story behind it is that like it's again I'm quoting various sources and Shah Rukh Khan's interview that when Shah Rukh Khan in 2006 or 7, that is when actually like the director of the film Anubhav Sinha, he had actually approached Shah Rukh Khan with this story. Like it was just a like a 5 line kind of a story about this, and Shah Rukh Khan had asked that why do you want to make this film? And at that time he only just said one thing, that is I want to make it for my kids. And Shah Rukh Khan also said the same thing. I also want to make this film for my kids. So we will take the time, we will develop the technology, and such like a heavy visual effects film like that had never been done in India before. So even like SRK's new formed company, which was at that time Red Chillies Entertainment, was formed, and they had actually done 2 3 films before, but and like VFX and color definitely was then, but not something where there was so much visual effects heavy. So the story goes that when they started the principal photography and everything, they had their suits. All of those were made in America, and so like all the traditional way of like doing the 3D scan and everything was done. Because yeah, so another fact was that at that time this was the most expensive Indian film which was being made. So like there was no constraints in terms of budget or anything, because obviously the world's biggest star was producing it, so there was no problem with the money or anything. So they went to the US, did all the 3D scanning and everything, and they got these leather suits like made out of the Ra.One's and G1 suit was made. What happened was when they actually brought it back in India to shoot in Bombay's, like in the harsh weathers and everything, those materials started to wear out, and that kind of like the entire suit didn't look good after the whole edit was done. So there was only around just few months left. Like I think as the story goes that in January or something they figured out that this is not working, and the film was supposed to release in October or November, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, something like that. And that is when they replaced the entire VFX with using VFX, the entire body suits for G1 as well as Ravan. And apart from that, there was definitely like the smoothing of the skin and everything, and all of it done. So all of those things which you're seeing on screen, that is all, it's all VFX. That's nothing is real, and it's 2011 technology. And let me tell you over that there's this train scene of Raftare where like Jeevan stops the train, and everything like it breaks through the station. So that was shot in London in a miniature set, and those were like everything was like it's like all of a lot of those things were done for the first time in India, that kind of thing. And basically before that also there was superhero in India. There was Krish, there was Shaktiman, but none of them were like so much kind of the science fiction kind of like advanced thing. So that's the story, how it goes as to how Ravan was made. And Shah Rukh Khan said that one thing, that I don't want to be remembered as maybe just an actor or a star. I want to be remembered as somebody who tried. So I just want to. This film should be, opening the gateways for other Indian films to use heavy VFX and just take that leap of faith. But unfortunately, the film didn't work out well in India. It worked out abroad very well. So outside the country, it was received very well. But in India, it didn't work well. So like we never got the Ravan sequel. So even in the ending scene, if you see, Jivan again reappears, but that is where it stops. So like now at least now there has been a lot of demand from Red Chillies that make Ra.One 2, hashtag make Ra.One 2. So kind of that Zack Snyder release the Snyder cut is happening.
I was just thinking that. It's weird because that last kind of hero shot of him,
Mm,
having rematerialized and he's up on top of the building. I was
mm,
thinking it's a lovely sentiment, but where does the story go? I feel like this was a great kind of one and done
mm.
story. I don't need to see a sequel necessarily. Um, but if they have an idea for it, maybe they'll remake Terminator 3. I don't know. But but tell
Yes.
me, I'm curious because why did it not succeed in India? You said it did well outside the country, but in
Hmm.
the place that it was made by the people for the people,
Yes.
why didn't they respond?
Yeah, so like basically like a lot of these things and everything, a lot of people, first and foremost, they thought that it was a child story and it lacked originality. Okay, so they that was the first thing. Second was, many did not like this Bollywoodization kind of that thing. So that is actually a thing which I was just seeing in Wikipedia also, which is that basically they wanted the film to be a lot more Western oriented. So basically, for us in India, what happens is that we are very much used to watching songs and dances and everything in film. So we necessarily are we don't want any more songs and dances in the film. Like, even though like at that time there was a thing, now everybody again wants it. That I'm glad that that is again coming back. But the novelty factor of making it a little bit more Indianized did not go well with the audiences. And in general, at that time also, a lot of these people just thought that, because in India what happens is that these cartoons, like, or the animated things and the superhero stuff, which is mostly seen as something for the kids at that time. And at that time, Avengers had also not come out. The first Avengers came out in 2012, and this was before that. So
Right.
after Marvel came in, and when Marvel became a global sensation and everything, like the entire approach towards superhero films changed a lot. So that also, and in fact, one of in Marvel's largest market is India. So there are many Indian Marvel fans. So like they're like crazy. I remember like going for Endgame. So it was crazy in India too. Like it's and now actually Marvel and like Disney releases Marvel films 1 week before than it does at the US. So that's how big of a market is India, just because of it. And they did they did praise a lot about the visual effects and everything, but they just did not like the script and the story. So the scripting and everything in Indian context was very kind of average, and not something which was kind of blowing the mind and everything. And this concept in general was a very first time kind of a concept which was not exactly fitting in that mainstream kind of that sense, right? Like, like the mainstream kind of the thing, even though it was Indianized in a lot way. But a lot of people said a lot of different things, but one thing was common, that is 95% of the kids loved it. So like Shah Rukh Khan was successful in that way because he made a ton of kids as fans that day when he released the film, including me. Like I was a fan way before that only. So like I was even like I became a fan of his when I was 4 years old. So that's when I became a fan of it. So I'd seen the film Dawn 1, and that's when I like became this mad about Shah Rukh Khan, everything. And in fact, when I even met Shah Rukh Khan, so I told him that, like, you've been like it's been a kind of a 17-year-old journey this far, that, like I've been seeing you since Dawn 1, and now it's kind of surreal. So from Dawn to Donkey, that's the journey. And Ra.One is a very important milestone in that.
What did he say when you told him that?
Yeah, he was very sweet, and he just laughed and just shook my hands and just hugged me a little bit. So like, yeah, because like, to be very honest, like there are millions of people, like generations have grown up on him, right? So basically, people from our my parents' age to people like who are just around 7 8 year olds now. So they, all of them, like even like three generations love Shah Rukh Khan. So that is his kind of his aura, that is his reach, that is his appeal. So even if he so okay, there's a very funny story that in, I don't remember, but there was in one particular film festival where Shah Rukh Khan was supposed to be there. This is way back in 2002. So Shah Rukh Khan had just done Devdas, and he was supposed to be there for the film festival. This was an international film festival, and and at the same film festival, there was supposed to be another big Hollywood star. And what happened was the security guard gave that big Hollywood star somewhere around 100 bodyguards, because it will be required. And when Shah Rukh Khan asked, like Shah Rukh Khan's team had asked, so they said that nobody knows Shah Rukh Khan over here, so not an issue. 10-20 bodyguards will do. So the next day there was actually a stampede because there was no security, and like the audience had come, like it was 4x the time it had come for Shah Rukh Khan, like 4x the time it had come for the Hollywood star to just meet Shah Rukh Khan. So Shah Rukh Khan was a craze back in the 90s, and even now, if you every year what he does is that so his infamous like you know not infamous, like his famous home is in Bandra, it's called Mannat. And so what happens is in his birthday every day, that is 2nd November, and in various festival occasions like Eid, or sometimes let's say there's a big cricket match going on and like India wins some important crucial. So these kinds of dates, or 15th August, like which is the Independence Day in India. So what he does is that he has this. So outside his house, it's like a constant tourist attraction. So if you go in Bombay and if you Mumbai, and if you see if you go outside Mannat, there is always hundreds of people over there just taking selfie with his house. And so there is a stand over there where he actually comes, and like in Fan, as you had seen, he comes and he waves his hands. So like this time there was around 1,000 people at night 1 a.m. to wish him his happy birthday, and next day morning there was around 5,000, 6,000 people just in front of his house. So that is the craze of Shah Rukh Khan.
And well deserved. I think it's cool that, when you met him and you told him your story. I mean, I assume you didn't have a whole lot of time with him,
Yeah, I
but
did not have
still,
a lot of time.
just to smile, laugh, and shake her hand, give a little kind of a hug. There are actors who in the media now, like the Western media, we're hearing stories about like horrible behavior and sort
Hmm.
of what they really think of the people who made them famous. And Shah Rukh Khan doesn't have to do any of this. He can just kind
No.
of be dismissive. But if he doesn't believe it, he at least pretends like he does, and that goes a long way
Yes.
to making people
Exactly, and,
believe
and
in him.
and it's always been like I had been hearing a lot in the interviews, and if you also see the interviews that from other actors, that Shah Rukh Khan always makes you feel like the most important man in the room, right? So like if you are meeting him, it will be like as if like he is spending the entire time with you. He has been knowing you for like around 25 years, the entire, like, he's your best friend kind of. And the same thing happened like when we had a very brief interaction, like it was some few, I think, few seconds to few minutes, maybe. That's how. But at that time was he was so serious that I got scared that did I do something wrong that he's so serious, or like is he, did my fanboying in Twitter went a little bit too much that he got irritated by my tweets and mentions that he remembers me, or but no, it was genuine. He was the same with everybody. Like everybody he just met, he took click pictures with everybody, and and even IndieRise, like IndieRise made a video for him that is even AI cannot replace SRK, which I don't know when it is going to be releasing. But so like it told him that sir, like we have made a video for you and everything, and he was like very kind. And I don't know if he has seen the video or not, but at least like we told that he assured that I will see the video, and I will I will ask my team for it, and thank you so much for making it and everything. So yeah, it feels great because like at the end of the day, because one moment he's just like any of us, like he's a human, like you holding his hands and everything. It was very odd when I first saw him because you have this so much image that he's going to be coming like a rocket or something like that, because a star kind of that thing, but he's just like us. But the next moment, like flash of a second, you're realizing that, oh my god, this is that man like who I've been seeing since my childhood. Like this is the man that who has made, like, who's the most popular star in the earth, in the planet earth currently. So it just hits you that like he's just like us. So it was very odd when I actually saw him, that like it did not feel like you're meeting such a big superstar. But it was very confusing. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe those who are actors, I don't know how they deal with it. Like once they're speaking normally, and then like the split of a second, they're like, you're the biggest superstar. Oh my god.
Well, I mean, I've heard similar stories about Tom Cruise, who
Yeah,
Shah Rukh
correct,
Khan has
correct.
been
Tom
sort of
Cruise.
compared to. Certainly on this show, we talked about him a bit.
Hmm.
That idea of making you believe that you're the only two people in the room, even if it's a line of like 100 people.
Yes.
I have not met Tom Cruise, but I've been in the same room with him,
Oh
and I've
wow.
seen the effect that he has on people. It's nuts. But he also, again, in terms of being with the fans and kind of meeting them, does that same kind of gracious thing,
Yes.
because I think he realizes once you get to that certain level of fame, you have to be conscious of the effect that you have on people. And like I said, you can do one of two things. You can lean into that and give people what they want, and to a certain extent what they deserve because they help make you popular, or you can just say, this is gross, back away, I don't want anything to do with it. So it's nice to know that when you meet your heroes or are in the same room with them, they live up to your expectations. Now,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
you mentioned kind of down to earth. I think that is something that struck me about Ra.One. To get back to the movie at hand, um,
Yes.
he he plays a video game developer
Correct.
who's got a wife and kid, and his son is, he likes to play games. He's very much into computers and technology, and dad just wants to impress him with the stuff that he's doing.
Correct.
But the kid, he's probably 11, 12 years old, thinks dad's lame, something that a lot of people can relate to. And so Shekhar is his name, the
Yes.
Shah Rukh Khan character. And in developing this new game, the company he works for is frustrated because they're out of ideas, nothing's working. So
Baron
Shekhar goes,
Industries.
was that,
That's the
yeah,
name
what
of the company. It was
was
Baron
it?
Industries.
Is it a
Baron
real company
Industries.
or is it a
No,
fake
no,
one?
no, no, no.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
fake one. It's a
Um,
fake one.
But so his son comes to him one day and says, "Hey, Dad, villains are cool, and everybody loves the bad guys." And Shaker is kind of upset by this. He's like, "No, good always wins. You should not think that evil is cool." But he takes
Correct.
the idea back to his boss and says, "Hey, what if we made a game where the villain was kind of the superstar?" And that's where Ra.One came into being, because I guess Ra.One or Ra.One, as it's kind of spelled anyway,
Yes.
translates to demon. Is that right?
Yes, correct, correct. So Ravan is a mythological figure in the Indian mythology too. So that's where the name comes from.
Right. And then there's to come up with a good guy, a foil for the game, they came up with a G1, which
Yes, the good
translates
one or
to
the G1.
right, the good or the light. Yeah. And so, and this, it was all done on kind of a whiteboard session. They're like, what are we going to name
Yes.
these characters? And the sort of abbreviations they had for their kind of stock characters in the game ended up translating perfectly to their hero and villain personae.
Mm.
Now, the film opens with this seminar on advancements in technology, and how everything is moving very quickly, and they're getting to the point where they can turn light into hard physical material and essentially
Yes.
manifest anything you can imagine. And that technology gets sort of mutated in the development of this game to the point where Ra.One comes to life
Yes, correct.
and starts wreaking havoc. And ultimately, he tries to go after, was it Pratik? Is that the
Yeah,
boy's
Pratik,
name?
Pratik. Yeah,
Pratik, yeah.
or his game name, which is Lucifer, like
Right.
Lucifer.
During the final stages of this development, there's this big unveiling party, and Pratik sneaks off with one of the other scientists or developers to test out the game. So he gets into
Yes,
this kind of motion
yes,
capture suit, and they plug in. They start playing the game. He goes in with his code name Lucifer.
yes, yes,
Eventually, things go haywire. Ra.One comes online. He says, "I need to defeat Lucifer,"
yes.
which is Pratik. And Shekhar figures this out and tries to protect his son.
Hmm.
He's driving home, and Ra.One manifests in the real world and kills Shekhar. This is like maybe 40 minutes into the movie. Our main
Yeah.
character is now dead. Now, I hadn't watched the trailer for this. I did see Shah Rukh Khan in the kind of the cool bodysuit, so I was like, oh,
Yes.
maybe something to do with the other Avatar, but I didn't know exactly where the story was going. And it's
Hmm.
here that it sort of becomes Terminator 2, because through a series of many events, Shekhar is reincarnated as G1, and he
Hmm.
becomes the good Terminator from Terminator 2, where he's
Yeah.
protecting the boy and the mom, played by Kareena Kapoor, who
Yeah.
is again just lovely. She was in Three Idiots, which we discussed.
Yeah. 3 Idiots. Yes, correct.
Right. The three of them are on the run from this nightmare cyber force that will not stop.
Correct.
And the movie goes on from there. There's spectacular car chases and action and violence and things. But what I really loved about the first 40 minutes is Shah Rukh Khan playing this kind of comedic, doting
Yes.
dad role. He's funny. He's got this weird kind of curly hair.
Yes,
He's
yes.
kind of playing a nerd, but he's not a cartoon. He's a real person who just wants to be. He just wants to feel cool to his son.
Correct.
Uh, and when he makes that stand on, I think they were on a bridge or it was a roadway. He
Mm.
gets, he stands up to Ra.One. He's not going to give up his son, and then
Mm.
he dies. It's
Yes, yes.
chilling. It's really emotional, and I wasn't
Correct, correct.
expecting that in the middle of this movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, like, that's the reason it is getting a lot of good reviews in retrospect. So now the reviews of Ravan have, like, they're all are very fantastic. But yeah, these are like this was a like unlike most other Shah Rukh Khan films. Also, this was one of those movies which, when released, received negative reviews, and later in retrospect turns out to be a good movie. Like Fan, then Swades. You have not seen Swades, you should definitely watch Swades. Then Ra.One. So, like, these are some of the movies which actually got good reviews in retrospect. And like, as you were saying about that, like, I'm now realizing, like, you personally also work in a video game development company. So, so like so I have to ask you this, like, how accurate was the depiction of video game making in the film compared to what is, of course that's a fictional thing and 10 years back thing, but like, could you actually relate as a developer that someday, somebody from the game might come out and something like that?
I don't know. It's a slightly different industry because I work in like casino gaming and slots and stuff.
Okay.
But we do work with a lot of kind of cutting edge 3D graphics and
Mm.
technology, and it is a very competitive landscape. But
Yes.
no, it's not these really cool, blue tinted, sci-fi future kind of labs.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a bunch of people sitting in, well, now it's mostly remote work, but when they're in the
Yes.
office, it's cubicles, like beige
Yeah.
cubicles,
Yeah.
people hunched over computers having meetings. It's all very fun and
Yes.
cool,
Yes.
but it's not. It's watching this movie. You would get the feeling almost that it's almost as cool to make the game as it is to be in the game, and that's not the case.
Yeah, yeah, so yeah, that definitely they kind of exaggerated a lot, because definitely that cool aesthetics and everything from movie point of view, and even like that concept of what you were saying, that, like, a character coming out from game. So that also a lot of people didn't buy initially, like that, how can a character come out of a game? So that's where the entire, like, criticism also was coming out and everything. And I also have to ask you about this, like one of my favorite sequences from the entire film was the train chase, where, like, Kareena Kapoor's character is actually, like, that is Ra.One, after the song Chammak Challo. So Chammak Challo, can you guess who sang the song? Or
What's that?
Criminal? So like, there are
Oh,
two songs, Chammak Challo and Criminal. So if
yeah, there was
you,
the Michael Jackson song, the
yeah, there is
homage
a
to
bad.
Bad.
So that was a that was a small glimpse, but like, Chammak Challo song was a so the Chammak Challo song was a pretty one of the most popular songs in India at that time. So every place you go, every party, every wedding, everywhere you go, it's always Chammak Challo playing and that step. And that song is actually sung by Akon, like the Akon. So if you know about Akon, so Akon had actually sung a Hindi song for the film because it's Shah Rukh Khan's film. So Akon had sung that song, and that song was a very big phenomena. And the music of Ra.One was very well received, by the way, because it was a very big hit in India, the music and everything. So, like, after the Chammak Chalo song, there is the entire train sequence which I was talking about earlier, like where they shot with miniatures in London, and it was again one of those very testing processes, because how would you, because in miniature what happens is that if you are, like, there's this mathematical concept of scaling, because you have to shoot it in high frames so that it doesn't look miniature, so that it kind of scales out with your, like, the way we are watching it, something which is happening in, let's say, a big size scale. And if you're just minimizing that, then the normal frame rate won't be working. You have to use high speed camera so that the motion appears slow. So there was a lot of technical stuff which they went on to that. And the entire sequence was like, there's a full VFX breakdown of it also in YouTube. I don't know if we can play it in the screen while we are editing the podcast, but so you can see like how it was actually done and everything, and it was a very interesting way in which they pulled it off. And even like there was this one particular sequence about how they like how there's this particle effect sequence where uh, Ra.One is actually materializing from the model. So if you look at it that way, Ra.One's character, Arjun Rampal's character, he was just a poor model on the hoarding, and he became the villain, unfortunately, like from where he got materialized and everything. And so the effect over there also, it was like a particle effects. Those are very advanced at that time also, and then that time at that point. And yeah, so Red Chilies did a lot of those R&D work, and towards the end of it, they outsourced it to a lot of other companies and everything because the team was not that big at that time. So once Ra.One released, that kind of set a benchmark for the Indian visual effects industry, and that benchmark was again broken by Shah Rukh Khan only in 2016 when Fan was made. So Shah Rukh Khan has always been an advocate for that. Like as I said, that he wants to make films which remind, like which kind of make a generational kind of that shift, or like an evolution kind of that thing, that this is the next stage of filmmaking and everything. And even if you notice in Jawan, like the recent one in Red Chilies and everything, so the amazing VFX works were done by them. So that's a very big thing.
Well, it's not only well executed, but it's well thought out. Because
Correct,
going back to the Terminator 2 thing, that was famous with the T1000 model was made out of liquid metal. So when you blow
correct,
them
correct.
apart, the little puddles would kind of come back together and form the full person. We have a
Yes.
version of that here, except it's all these cube particles, like
Exactly,
almost like
exactly. The
something
cube
you'd see in
particles.
Transformers, but they would kind of roll back to each other and then form and almost like 3D pixels to
Correct.
regenerate. And I like that depending on how badly you destroy him, because they established that there's this whole kind of convoluted thing with the two hearts, which almost
Yes.
reminded me of the Iron Man arc reactors from the
Yeah.
chest.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Ra.One and G1 both have one, and if they're separated from them, they can't be killed. But if they're joined together, then one can kill the other forever. It's very video
Yes.
gamey, and it plays out in the climax of the film. But at one point, Ra.One gets completely obliterated to the point where all of his particles get absorbed into a street, and it
Yeah.
takes
Yeah.
so long to
That is the
reform
first
himself.
fight. That is the first
Right.
fight.
But it takes, and it's crazy because there's like this movie is 2 hours and 35 minutes long, and for I think an hour, the main villain disappears from the movie after that first fight, while our new characters of G1 and Sonia,
Yes.
the Karina
Empathy.
Kapoor character and Pratik, they go on the run and they're hiding out in. They go back to India,
Yes.
while at the same time Ra.One is reforming himself. He's getting the
Yes.
strength back under the street to manifest again. It's crazy
Correct.
because a lot of time we've seen this in other movies. In Terminator 2, the guy might get knocked out for a couple of minutes, but in this case, it takes I don't know weeks, maybe a month or something
Yeah.
like that.
Correct. Correct. And there's a very interesting cameo also. So
Yeah,
in the like in the airport fight sequence, so there is the cameo of Rajnikant. So Rajnikant is again a very big superstar in India. So he actually, so as I told you, in the Indian film industry, that it's actually a lot of regional film industries coming together. So Ra.One can be called as the Hindi film industry or Bollywood in that way. Then there is the Bengali film industry, there is which is Satyajit Ray, and there is the Tamil film industry where Rajnikant is from, and Telugu film industry which is SS Rajamouli. So like RRR, that's a Telugu film, and there's the Malayalam film industry. Then there's the Kannada film industry, Kantara. So from Malayalam there is this new film called Avesham. So so basically India is having a lot of these regional film industries, and every year they are producing more than 10,000 films. So like India is the largest producer of films in the world because of all these regional industries and everything. So so Rajnikant, he even if you see a Rajnikant film, so it's always written superstar Rajnikant. So that's how the film starts. That's his swag, and that's and he actually was a part of a film called Robot in 2010, which was just released 1 year before Ra.One.
was
And
that Enderon?
yeah, Entharan, yes,
I
Entharan.
I've seen that movie,
Yes.
and it's crazy because I talked about it on another podcast within the
Yes.
last couple of months, and I reviewed it when it first came out, and
Oh, yeah.
that was my first experience with an Indian film, and I had forgotten about it. And so when I was going back and reading, it was like, oh, it all started like 14 years ago. But yes, the scene at the airport when the car pulls up and he gets out in his full kind of
Yes.
robot makeup, I lost my mind. And it's okay that he doesn't team up with
Ye-
them, or it's just like a weird cameo, but
yes.
just the fact that they would do this kind of a random crossover. I mean, they're only a year apart when they came out, but for
Yes.
me, 14 years on, when I'm watching this new movie to me, and I'm seeing this other new movie that was my gateway into this whole thing, it's just a great treat, and I loved it. I had a huge smile on my face for 5 minutes after he was off the screen.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you like Anitharan? How do you like
Oh,
that
I
film,
loved it.
Robot?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah. So that cameo was even I remember watching it in theaters when I was very little, but I do remember that when that scene happened, like the theater burst into like laugh, like clap and laughs, and like everybody was cheering and everybody was very happy. So it was just like the cameo in Pathan when Salman Khan walks in, and in Jawan, and when Sanjay Dutt walks in and everything. So cameos are again a very big thing now, thanks to Marvel, which kind of made that cameo a lot more mainstream kind of a thing. But so yeah, so that sequence, and now that you were talking about, I just came into my mind that Ra.One actually doesn't appear until that Chammak Chalo song in the train fight sequence. So the first time he appears is when he actually gets dissolved inside the street, and then he actually comes to the final fight. So that is the kind of the final fight scene. And
Well,
over there
he shows
also,
up a little bit before that because he goes to the head of the video game developer,
yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
kills him in
yeah.
his office. Yeah, that was the second
Yes,
death that I was like, "Ugh."
yes,
Um, but
yeah.
even that was was it Chumba Chalo, the
Chammak
sizzling
Challo.
sirens? Yes, that the
Yeah,
sizzling sirens on. Yeah, we talked about it just a second ago, but that's a great song and a
yeah,
wonderful dance sequence. And I loved the thing that struck me the most about Shah Rukh Khan, and pretty much all the performers during these dance numbers is I'm sure they rehearsed these things a
mm,
lot, but it
yes,
doesn't look like it. It looks like they all just spontaneously broke out dancing, and they look like they're having genuine fun. Like there are a
yeah,
couple of shots where they just look like they're just giggling because they get to dance instead of having this,
yes, yes,
almost like an actorly. I have to look
mm,
like I'm having a good time. This looked authentic, almost like an outtake or something, but it was all
yes.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so so
great.
that is again, that's a very big, because songs and dances are so much ingrained into the into the entire narrative structure of Indian films, especially. So like you cannot imagine a song, like you cannot imagine a film without a song. So what happens is, while writing a film only, what happens is, in the script the song is written itself as to how it will be happening. You take for example Natu Natu. So because it tells a beautiful story about like how those two, like in for example in Natu Natu, it's like those two Indians in a party with the Britishers, and how they are, because they are facing a lot of problems and they are overcoming that. So it's a beautiful story told through a song, and that is what, and every actor is a part of it. So you have seen Sanjay Leela Bhansali's film. So everybody, like the entire frame is active. Like even the dancer in the corner of the screen, they are adding something to it. The main lead is adding something to it. So when actually, this is actually something which a lot of Indian filmmakers get also, that is, when foreign filmmakers see these dance sequences, they find it very difficult to comprehend, because that this is something which is not done in Hollywood. Apart from musicals, yeah, you see West Side Story, yeah, there's definitely a great camera work, but you see any average Indian film with songs and dances, there are around 200 to 500 people coordinating that, just like, and everybody's in coordination with each other. Even if you see our award shows over here is like a spectacle. So you know about Oscars, right? So Oscars is a 2 hour kind of a thing which is happening live. Award shows over here are short in different hours and everything. So award show over here is an 8 hour thing. So when you're receiving an award for something, or when you're receiving something let's say you're going to an award show, you go there at 7 o'clock in the evening and you leave there at around 4:30 a.m. in the morning, because the stars show up late at night, and then it's all a spectacle, like, right? And even and then what happens is that it is edited in a way so that it's an entertainment kind of a form, because in India what happens is filmmaking, like films and these television shows and these live shows, those are all a kind of a family time together. So when you are having a family time together, and when you're bonding with your friends or with your family members, or just you want to have a good time, that's when you are switching on the TV, and people want an escapism from their daily life. So that's why the Indian films are always, like, mostly they're always over the top, they're always like this larger than life kind of the thing, where like everybody's dancing, and it genuinely feels, because once in a theater, if you're watching a song like Chammak Chalo, you genuinely feel like dancing, you genuinely have a good time, because definitely it's in theater, and the sound is definitely a lot louder than it sounds in just now earphone and everything. So so people find it's worth spending, let's say around 200 to 300 rupees on that ticket or per person, which is quite expensive for a lot of people in India. And the ticket prices are a little bit expensive for the nowadays. There have been a lot of offers and everything, so people want to be very sure that when they're going to watch a movie in theater, it better be something which kind totally blows my mind out. I don't just want to watch a personal character story about something, or anybody different. So even though maybe a lot of those films which are critically not working on everything, commercially they get a lot of praise, because people just at the end of the day want to have a good time. So they're having that depressive episode in life. People are frustrated with the job, with a lot of other things, and so they want to watch a movie and refresh. And that's the ideology they have. They're not interested about the character dynamics, if there is an entire character story. So that's how most Indian films are made. So songs are a very essential part. So it gives you that escapism, that okay and everything. And that's how the entire term of, like, like, I want my dreamy Bollywood life came out, that like you want it to be like that, because everything is so perfect. Like, you see in songs, like the hero's hair is flying perfectly, and like they look always perfect on camera. When the actor is waking up in the morning, it's always fresh. So that doesn't happen in real life for sure, but but people like to watch that and project themselves doing that. So that's the thing.
I watched two movies yesterday.
Yeah.
I watched this one, Ra.One,
Hmm.
and then in the evening I went to go see the new movie from Paramount, I think called If, which stands for
If
Imaginary
yes,
Friend. Yes.
yes.
If is about half as long as
Hmm.
Ra.One, and I only enjoyed 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes of that movie. And you know, there's a musical number sort of in the middle of If, but it's nothing compared to the two or three we get in this other movie. It's 13 years old. There are ideas in If, but even the ideas that Ra.One kind of appropriates from the Terminator series and maybe some other movies, it does stuff with them to make me want to know what's going to happen next and to imagine my own scenarios, like what would I do in this situation, or what are the
Yeah.
possibilities coming off of this movie. I got none of that from this other movie that's a big Hollywood blockbuster that's supposedly, allegedly about the power of imagination. So yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm with you. I was so upset when I left the theater last night because I paid like $27 for my wife and I to go see this movie. I got to watch Ra.One on a free trial with an Amazon thing, 10 hours earlier. The world is completely upside down.
You should have maybe watched Ravan at night then. So that would have been a lot better.
No, nothing would have made If enjoyable. This is my early review.
Wow. So yeah, I'm yet to watch if I have to watch the film, so I really can't say anything about it. But yeah, if is a, like, I've been reading the reports and everything, so it's a blockbuster. Like the Ryan Reynolds, if right, like there's Ryan Reynolds and there's Ryan Reynolds in this one, right? And if
Yeah, it's
Ryan
Ryan
Reynolds
Reynolds
and
and John Krasinski and a bunch
yeah,
of people. But it's my wife, and again, we'll get back to Rowan in a second, but my wife, the first thing she said was, that is not the movie that they are advertising on television. It's not the whimsical kind of like adventure fantasy. It's very mature and very dark and very strange and not in a good way. But back to Ra.One. We talked a lot about the kind of the VFX or the special effects work, the digital stuff. I just want to take a second to fully appreciate. I don't know how much of digital effects might have been involved in this sequence, but there's a scene where a car drives through one of those tall, like London buses,
Yes, buses. Yes, correct.
drives through it. Both the bus is moving, the car is moving, it drives through it. And again, I didn't see any digital effects. It looks like they actually crashed this bus with the car. Did that happen? Do my eyes deceive me?
No, that was all CG. Like a lot of it was
With
CG.
that
They might have, yeah, that was CG. So they did it in real life, but used it CG to kind of that's all CG. So they
in
like, yeah,
2011 they did this? Because
yeah.
I was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, this is 13 years ago. The technology has gotten really good now, but back then I completely believe that they did that.
So yeah, I told you, like you're seeing Shah Rukh Khan's G1 character. That entire thing is CG. So like his face is smooth and everything done. So that's a 3D model. And so like, about the bus sequence and everything you were saying. So they might have, again, this is my assumption, but they might have done it in real life. But in real life, you can just do it only until there's a certain bit. So you definitely need CG. Otherwise, you cannot kind of enhance it and everything. But yeah, that's why it's known as one of the benchmark films in visual effects in India. So that that is
I want to cry. That is so that see that's how you know that the effects, the digital effects really work is when it looks like, oh, they must have just I hope that stuntman was okay. There was no stuntman. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, the thing you mentioned about the suit earlier,
Hmm.
um, I wonder if that was probably the best thing that could have happened for this production, because if you look at the suits
Hmm.
that they end up with, they have these sections kind of taken out of them, so they have like this glowing kind of
Yes, yes, correct.
it's not quite plastic, it's not
Yes,
quite glass, but it all looks very much
plasma kind of
digitally
a
enhanced.
thing.
Yeah, plasma, exactly. So I don't know if the leather suits had those same cutouts to add those
No, no,
effects
no.
later, or what they were all just regular kind of leather body suits.
They were all regular kind of body suits, which so basically the kind of suits which Superman, Batman they have. But
Right.
so they initially thought that with that suits everything will work out, but also later they found out that even in the films they replace the entire suits. Even if they are wearing leather suits, they will replace the entire suit in the final thing. So you take for example Spider-Man. So Spider-Man suit, let's say Andrew Garfield is wearing it for real, but in the final film everything is replaced. So animators have a better reference and everything. But so they like, even though they got the leather suit, it actually did not start to look good. But I don't remember exactly. I think with Ravan's with G1's suit, what happened was it started to wear and tear, so they had to replace G1 in the entire film. Now what happened was G1 suit was so advanced and everything, and Ravan's suit started to look uncool in front of that. So they again had to redo the entire film to just change Ravan's suit, and so that it looks as level to G1, and then it kind of totally leveled up. So that's how the entire thing happened.
Well, I don't know if this was in the script or if this is sort of a joke or an homage to what happened. But when we first see the full body suits of these characters, they're in that game development lab. They've got these
Yes.
kind of glass
Yes,
display
yes,
cases with
correct.
models and the suits. It's almost like, hey, we developed this game. Let's get this kind of trinket for the office.
Yes.
When Ra.One comes to life, those digital kind of effects, they take over the suit and they essentially rewrite it, but it's the same suit, just kind of like a new fresh coat of paint over it.
Yes,
So
yes,
I'm
yes.
thinking, oh, that's sort of like what they had to do in real life. They
Yeah.
take this physical material and then digitize the entire thing. We just
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
see that in the
exactly,
movie.
exactly, 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 exactly. That is what they did. So yeah, and as I was telling that, like, to match these, so what they did was that once the even those effects and everything, so they got one person who was a PhD in artificial intelligence, and that guy actually did that entire calculations and everything as to how to make it work and everything. So this is something which I'm quoting from Harry Hingorani. He's one of the chiefs of visual effects at and the man behind Harry Hingorani and Ketan Yadav. So these two people. So even they work in all Red Chili's VFX work. So you will be in fact surprised to know that in Donkey, so you have seen Donkey, we even spoke about Donkey.
Hmm.
So in Donkey, all of those villages and everything you are seeing, all of it is not real. So they shot everything in front of a green screen. Everything is
Am I
everything
am
is
I am I real? I can't tell anymore.
so you should watch the VFX breakdown of Donkey. So even SRK's hair is not real. So even like the hairstyling and everything was all VFX. So his actual hair is different. So you should watch it on YouTube. Which the so the Donkey's VFX. You should watch the VFX breakdown. So all those river sequences, train sequences, everything was VFX. So there, if you remember in Donkey, also in the opening, there is the scene in the barber shop that. He's doing that a bald guy sitting with just one bit of hair and it's going here and there. So that guy is actually not bald in real life. So and his entire face was replaced in CG and it was added with the
I can't. I don't know how to process that. Wow.
hair.
Now, here's the thing. Like, we talked about this movie being ahead of its time because a year after it came out, the Avengers came out, and then it's puzzling to me that you had a superhero genre adjacent film that flopped in the kind of the popular
Mm.
imagination. And then a year later, this big mega brand drops its superhero movie,
Yes.
kind of thing, and then everyone loves it. So it's ahead of the time in that sense. But also the fact that this movie opens with this kind of seminar on artificial intelligence and the possibilities,
Yeah.
I thought, wow, this you could re-release this movie today
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
theaters, and people would be like, oh my gosh, this is ripped right from the headlines, as they say. It's wonderful, and it talks about uh, there's sort of a subtext which we kind of mentioned earlier, the idea of worshiping the
Mm.
villain, but you could also talk about sort of these kind of cultural shifts to the
Yes.
anti-hero ripping down, the established norms and values and stuff, and but also coming back to understand that there is a place for righteousness, for good, for living sort of a wholesome kind of a life,
Correct.
and the conflict in there, because yeah, being wholesome and boring is not cool. But it's also not cool to be a digital overlord who leads to the complete destruction of the planet and lives in an environment
Yes.
populated by skulls and nuclear clouds.
Correct, correct, exactly, exactly. So even like that is even in the beginning of the film when there is one sequence where Shekhar goes to drop his son to school, like after that bad, like Michael Jackson's bad thing. So that's when he says to him that there is it is not good to be bad. It's always good to be good, and so that's the entire theme of the film, that you should not worship even, because at the end of the day it's always the goodness always wins over evil. So it's always the victory of good over evil, which is what the festival of lights also resonates with. So it's always victory of good over evil, Diwali, and that's when the film also released. So it's so what happens is in Dashera, it's a festival in India. What happens is the demonic figure of Ra.One, that is with 10 heads. It is actually like like there is Ram Leelas which happen, which is like the redemption play of Ramayana, and then they actually burn so there are big dolls of there are 10 feet, 12 feet, big dolls of around, like, yeah, it's almost 5 story, 6 story high. Those kinds of dolls. Even in the film, there is a sequence where
Yeah.
actually Ravan walks in and there's this bow and arrow. They actually burn it, and that is to celebrate Dashera, which is the victory of good over evil.
the
And
because that scene, because you see the guy, and I'm gonna butcher this, I'm sorry, but there's the guy in the sort of the red sort of
mm,
wrap, and he fires that flaming arrow almost at the
yes, so
screen,
that is
right?
that is Ramayan. That's from Ramli. That's Sri Ram. So that's the
But
character of Sri Ram. Yes.
well, because when in RRR, that's
Yes.
Ram,
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
character
Exactly.
towards
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
end, when he is sort of reborn as the spirit
Yes.
of vengeance. What is he's shooting the flaming arrows and
Yes.
taking out the
So
dark
even
forces.
in RRR also, like that was what was shown, that he embodies the spirit of Sri Ram, and that's when he gets the power, and like that's exactly that sequence. I was actually going to reference to you about RRR, so it's easier for you to understand. So exactly that thing. That's what is being shown.
I love it because you're doing with sort of a spirituality and culture the
Yes.
Marvel universe thing where you're
Yeah.
turning those elements into superheroic, metaphysical
Yes. Yes.
aspects to the story, which just underline the entire thing. It's beautiful.
Correct, correct, exactly. So exactly that is the entire idea. And Shah Rukh Khan also spoke about this as to why. And in fact, Ra.One also, when the film's title was first released, so the film's marketing was very unique. So again, none of the film in India had done so much extensive promotion. So what happens in the West is for normally for US films. So what you are all seeing is a different thing. So you guys see that before the film is being released, 4 months prior to it, the trailer of the film comes out, and then there's the trailer 2, which is 1 month before it, and then the film comes out. So it's a very long marketing process. Or so the film is announced maybe a year back that next year the film is coming out or something like that. In India, what happens is the film's first trailer is released 4 weeks prior to the film is going to be released, and that's when the teaser is released, and the film's trailer comes out around 2 weeks before the film is released, and then there is a very extensive promotion. It's always a 4 week, 5 week kind of a marketing plan which is being done. So that's how small windows are in Indian films. So Ra.One is one of the first films to actually start their promotion 1 year back in the so it released in October 2011. The film's first poster and title was released in October 2010. So that was again a very big hype for Indian. Like my God, 1 year back onwards, we know the film, and it's such a huge scale. The promotions are of different levels. So there was merchandise, there was video games. So all of it is very common in the West for all these Star Wars movies. But for an Indian film to do all of those kinds of things, it was a very big deal back then. So because Shah Rukh Khan wanted that, and all hero, like all the kids in India, and so okay. By the way, you should know about this about the suit you were saying. So the reason why Jivan's suit is so very easy in that way is because Shah Rukh Khan wanted that anybody could become Jivan, any kid could become Jivan with what they have in their house. So a jeans pant and a blue full kind of a t-shirt you wear, and you are Jivan. So that was the entire ideology behind making Jivan so simplistic yet so cool. So a lot. In fact, I remember like I wanted to get that kind of that thing. So you just wear a jeans and you wear a blue thing, and there was a signature pose of this he's just looking up, and so I still remember the poster, like it was the main poster of G1, and that in fact that I am a person who doesn't draw that well, drawing, sketching, and that was the first sketch I even attempted to. I might have made a very horrible retention of it, but so that was the power of that thing, because it was a huge thing at that time that 1 year onwards the promotion is happening. There are these music launches, there's merchandise, you can buy action figures of Ra.One and everything. So for an Indian film to do it at that time was a big thing. So even in terms of marketing, very big it was a very big kind of a thing. And if you the entire budget, it was somewhere around 120 crores. Okay, so 120 crores is somewhere around what should I say, it's somewhere around, I think it's even it's somewhere around 50 to 60 million dollars. So that is a low budget. So that is the that is how that is how the film is. I told you, na, like in India the economics are very different. I don't
Yeah,
know,
they
like
are
let,
because I
let,
mean,
let, let me actually check how much is 120 crores in INR, because I don't want to be wrong. 120 crores INR to USD. Okay, so it is wait, what is it actually? How much is, just a minute. It's actually somewhere around 94. Yeah, it's somewhere. Oh, yeah, it's less than 50 million. It's somewhere around $14 million or something like that. It's very less. It's like I have to check it once again. Like it's very less. So that
okay.
is that is
I,
the
look,
entire.
I'm going to revise my earlier statement. Okay.
Yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan needs to become a huge star, in the West, in America specifically, and we need to move all of our film production over to India. I don't know how exactly that would work, but there's no reason that I should be sitting there watching, these movies that cost $120 million,
Yes.
$250
So
million.
the budget is $14.4 million.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said the budget was 14?
1 4, yeah, 14.4 millions. It's $14.4 million.
For the movie we're talking about right
Yeah,
now.
for the movie I'm talking about right now. Yes, the entire budget was 40.
Let's just say that adjusted for inflation, that's
Yes,
twice the cost. That's
yes,
still a miracle because this movie, again, is 2.5 hours long, and
yeah,
there's rarely a frame in it that doesn't have some kind of a digital effect going on, and a
yes,
really great.
correct.
Okay, the other thing, uh, at the very end, they have
Hmm.
the not exactly the blooper reel, but it's the how did we make this movie over the
Yes,
credits,
correct,
right? And
correct.
they showed there's a great fight that we kind of have talked about. The first fight between G1 and Ra.One takes place. They're hurling cars at each other, and we
Yes,
see during this kind of behind the scenes stuff that I'm sure it was enhanced with digital effects, but they're actually flipping cars,
yeah, yeah. They flip
in the
cars.
air at each other, right?
Yes,
There's another
yes,
scene where that train scene where the people are flipping between between moving
yes,
trains.
yes,
You
correct.
get to see one of the cameras break because the train speeds by it, and it just like it cracks. And this all cost
Yes, yeah.
14
All of.
million.
I told you, right? Like the funds we are raising for the film, that is so less as compared to the actual thing which is going to happen. So a lot of people lose their shit. That then how can you make a film at such a low cost? But over here in India, that's a huge cost to make a film. So like films are made for like 120 crores is a huge amount. So films are normally made over here for the independent films, especially in the Bengali film industry, which are going worldwide in the music box theater and everything. They are made for somewhere around 1 to 2 crores or 3 crores. And 3 crores is actually like, let me actually tell you the figure now. What is 3 crore INR to USD is actually somewhere around, yeah. So it's somewhere around, I think it's somewhere less than 100K. It's something less than 100K. Yeah, it's 0.36 million USD. So it's not less than 100K. It's more than 100K. So it's around it's around 400K. It's less than even 500 grand. So that's the average cost of an independent film in India. In India, in fact. So
Well, I mean, as I've talked about on other shows, there are varying degrees of independent film here
yes,
in the states that I'm aware of. Like you've got micro budget,
yes,
mid
correct.
budget, and then you've got like the major studios that have an independent film wing. But still, I mean, that's really impressive that the economics work out that way.
Yes,
And to watch a movie like this again, it's almost one of those man on the street things where you could show someone Ra.One
yes.
and then catch them as they're coming out of the theater and be like, "How much do you think that movie cost to make?" And they're like, "I don't
And
know,
you will be actually
$250 million." Yeah.
you'll be actually very shocked to know, but these studios are the ones who are making your Hollywood films. So 90% of these visual effects you're seeing in Planet of Apes, or if, or maybe even Avengers, all of those come outsourced to India, because in India the 99% of VFX, like 90% of VFX artists are from India. So India is having a lot of these VFX artists which are outsourced to companies over here, agencies like us. There is a lot of people like IndieRise and everything who do the visual effects for Hollywood films. So that's even though it's a Hollywood produced film, the visual effects, a lot of it is outsourced either in here or in some other Asian countries.
Now, I think we're going to wrap up here in a few
Mm,
minutes, but I do want to take a sidebar because you bring up an interesting point that I had not thought about.
mm.
Sometimes I'll stay for the credits of these big budget movies, usually
Yes,
because there's some kind of a teaser, a stinger at the end of it.
yes,
But it's famous because you spend 10 minutes watching the wall of names kind of scroll by
yes,
all the effects people and the different
yes.
locations and things. But if if there are effects houses that are working on both these kind of call them Hollywood productions and like India
Mm,
productions, do you know anything about like the pay or how good a job is it? Because specifically, I think last year and the last 2 years, there've been all this talk about Disney like not paying
correct,
their
correct, correct.
VFX houses, like going to the lowest bidder and then not paying them, to
Yes, correct. That
the
is
show.
true.
The effects look horrible on something like a She-Hulk TV series because
Mm.
they give them hardly anything to work with. So I'm just wondering if that's the same in the production houses, out where you are.
Yeah, so no, the thing is that it actually depends on the time. So what happens is most of the things is that the for any post production facility, it's better to be involved right from the time you're writing the film. So what happens is a lot of these production houses are not going to give you the script, nothing, and they will be just sending you the like the VFX files of it, and you're just supposed to deliver it by just a week or something like that. And because it's almost in VFX, it's many of the time it's like it happens is especially to outsource studios that they just want you to do the chroma keying maybe, or they just want you to maybe do the just removing the lens flare and something like that. So there's a lot of so like a film normally has close to 7 to 8 different studios working on them. So even Avengers had 7 to 8 different VFX studios. Maybe one of it might be their principal VFX supervisor kind of that thing, but other than that, it's all pretty much outsourced. And so what happens in India is that the budget for the VFX is not as much as a priority as it is for the other stuff. So over here in India, let's say if a film is made in an X amount, the 50% of that X amount goes to just the just goes for talent. So like the talent sourcing and everything, because there's a lot of management involved and everything. So that's where the 50% of the budget goes, and the rest 50% of the budget is where all the technical stuff happens. So that includes production costs, post production costs, travel cost, your taxes and everything. So that is the ratio, which is not exactly, not most of the other times it is not the cases in other countries films. So that's how most of the films are made over here. But a lot of these things are changed. A lot of Indian films are also having way better VFX, especially like Brahmastra, then Shah Rukh Khan's films and everything. But there is always this the job is very, like it's very demanding and it's very high pressure, because it's a creative thing at the end of the day, and you don't know when a person will be satisfied. So because it depends on the director's vision. So if the director is not even satisfied, let's say the director likes the VFX, but that VFX is actually, it is very shit, and the audience then does not accept it. So there is like a, it's like a, and VFX is not get paid that much attention to over here, because even if the VFX is bad, people are now people are a lot more aware. But normally it was like, okay, like VFX is just maybe a tool and everything. So if the story connects with them, then it's good to go. But still in India also right now we are having the most talented set of artists, mathematicians, and everybody from India. So a lot of these VFX. So if you even see the credits, as you were saying, you will every row there is at least average of 1 to 2 Indian names. So and like there is, like you can see some Indian name definitely, and there are many houses which are working on it. So there's always like minimum per house. There has to be close to 5 to 6 VFX artists who are from India, who are just working in this, who are working from here, and they're working on these big Hollywood films. And a lot of people don't know also about this, because and yet people ask this question, that why do Indian films might not compete with Hollywood in terms of VFX. It's just because the budgeting over here is done very differently, because again the VFX over here is not a priority, because the economics because VFX is not enough to recover the funds from here, because the economics of the film industry work very differently. So it's about the star, it's about who you are going to see on screen. If you're It's about who you are, it's about the actor, it's not about the story always. Now the things are changing, but that is the main thing. So because the economics work in the Indian film industry very differently than what it does in Hollywood or other parts of or other countries' industry. So that's a possible explanation as to why VFX, even though the artists are over here. And another thing is the budget. Like the budget is very less as compared to what Hollywood spends on a particular film. So only few films like Ra.One and everything, they are able to do achieve this kind of VFX because it just costs a lot to. And even if you know, for that matter, Avatar, it took 13 years to make. It's because each and everything was detailed and done in a very good fashion. And if they would have to do it in 1 year, then you would not see these. Obviously, they were just able to pull off that VFX because the VFX artists had time. So if yeah, I even, and I can speak it from my own personal thing, because IndieRise is also a production house, and IndieRise does these kinds of work and everything. And my VFX artists and editors, they are like, just give us time. And I also have to tell them that, we don't have any time. We have to deliver this, so we have to compromise, because then we have to, because just over here the VFX is not that much. But with the advent of AI and everything, that is changing. So this AI is helping a lot of these repetitive tasks and a lot of these tasks to produce results in a better way, in a lot more faster manner. So that's a very big change which is going to be happening soon in the industry. So that's something to look forward to. So rotoscoping and everything, that all of these are now automated, and AI does it and everything.
And that's something that we'll have to talk about coming up because you know, I've turned around a lot on AI since earlier this year when I was looking at the IIT Madras
Yes.
the short film competition that I
Yes.
judged, because there was a lot of kind of AI influenced and incorporated elements into those films that really worked, and I can understand why people would use that as a tool for production and also as an aid to storytelling.
Yes.
But right now there's kind of, especially here in in America and in the film critic community, there's a lot of consternation, a lot of worry about, oh, this is going to kill jobs and then take away creativity and all this other stuff. But there's a way to do it, to use it as a tool to sort of free up people to do more of the creative work. So
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
people might have to learn a new skill within their trade, but I don't see this as the big job killer and the big boogeyman that other people
Yes.
do. So yeah, I'm
Correct.
glad to hear that you're having a positive experience with it. But I just want to say, I hope that one of the big conversations here regarding Hollywood films is the death of the movie star. Like,
Yeah.
people aren't going to see the big marquee names anymore. They're going to see the big, kind of effects and spectacles. To what you were saying, why do I need to leave the house and pay all this money? If I'm going to go to the theater, I want to see something and be wowed by it. I can
Yes.
watch a drama at home on streaming 3 weeks after it comes out in the theater. But
Yes.
I hope that the India film industry as a whole does not lose sight of the importance of story,
Yeah.
and quality special effects, and realizing these worlds. And
Definitely.
I also like the fact that the movie star is a big thing over there, because that's something that's kind of depressing now, is you can no longer rely on a marquee name to open a film, and that's just very sad.
Yes. Yes, yes. So the death of the movie star is definitely having, like I mentioned it many times, that Shah Rukh Khan is the last of the stars. Like they tell that, like the, because a star is someone like whom you worship, and that's exactly the thing. So nowadays you don't see people doing hairstyles, and there are many popular actors. They're very talented actors, but there is not a star. Like, so you would not wait for that one person to just catch a glimpse of that, because now there is social media, right? So with a star is a star because there is so much less of it, yet when you get a piece of that thing, you would always just want more. It's something which was very, very well shown in Elvis, that they all, like, which Tom Colonel Parker says, that they always wanted a piece of Elvis. So that's the thing with it, like but now what happens is that there is social media. Stars are a lot more approachable. You can just, like, imagine, like, you can just send your favorite actor a message on Instagram. So that's how cool that is. That's very different than 30 years back or 20 years back, where you had to just wait for that one magazine where just one exclusive photo of that actor is going to come out, and you're just going to glimpse them in a car, or going out or somewhere, or you're just seeing them in the airport. So now it's not a thing. Now there is a gym look, there is an airport look, there's this, there's that, there's a lot of those other things. So, like, there's no mystery around them, so you know what is you know what a person is having for dinner, you know, having for breakfast, they're going out, and they're also very approachable now. Nobody behaves like a star anymore. Everybody is very like they're the common guy kind of that thing, that you know, like, I'm also the one with you and everything. So that is what it has come to, and that is that. So it has both good and bad as well. So the bad may be that there's no mystery around it. The good is that, you know, like, it's just another job, and a lot of people are cool with it. Hey man, that you're doing a job, and fine, you're an actor, and maybe a accountant, and maybe a banker, and maybe a doctor, and it's just a job. But yeah, there's a lot of popularity. There's definitely that. So still, actors in India, they get like mobbed up with selfies and everything, so that they can post in their social media and everything. But nobody's a star, like, because, yeah, because when Shah Rukh Khan walks in a room, like, everybody turned their heads to that. So even like Salman Khan, who's a very big star, I was with like Tom Cruise. I was in a room with Salman Khan, and it was a big stadium actually, for the Kolkata International Film Festival. And when he walked in, like, you could feel like the entire auditorium. It was a big, it was like an auditorium. It was not even like a stage. It was like a sorry, it was an indoor stadium, not an auditorium. It was a stadium. So the entire stadium went up on his feet to just let him enter. That is the power of a star. That everybody, like, you cannot see him, like, you're seeing him very tiny from far, but you can just feel their presence. That, oh my god, this person is over here. That is star. There were many, and it was a film festival, so there are many popular actors just roaming around and everything, and you're like, wow, I'm seeing this actor. But when he walked in, that is when you're like, oh my god, like, you can feel the power of it, and you have to be in the room to feel it.
There are stars and there are planets, and the
Yeah,
planet. Yeah. Um, well,
exactly.
Shashwat, this has been a great conversation about
Yes.
Ra.One and many other things, and I think that's
Well,
that's what's so cool about us getting together and having these talks. So, yeah, anything you wanted to wrap up with as we close the door?
not really from my side, but it's always good to talk to you about Indian films, and especially about Shah Rukh Khan films. So, and I think that, again, like, last time you said that you want a film which was negatively reviewed in India. So I told you that, but it turned out to be both of our favorite films.
I know.
So
I Okay. Here's my new challenge. Okay, find me a film that was negatively received
yeah.
that you don't like.
There are very less Indian films actually which I don't like. So I have to really find a very, I have to find a very, I have to find my film. But I really, first, I want you to watch all the good stuff, because so I will tell you an even better film than this the next time, of Shah Rukh Khan again. So we have a whole list. So I want you to really watch Chak De India, because that's again a very landmark film which kind of changed the entire sports drama biopic kind of the films in India. So, Shah
All
Rukh
right.
Khan plays a women's hockey coach, and it's a very interesting film. You should watch that film.
Well, let's talk about it. I'm
Yeah.
game, as they say. But
Yeah, yeah,
all right,
yeah.
all right, sir. Well, thank you again very much for the conversation. Once again, this is Indie Rise and Kicking the Seat present Spotlight India, and we've been talking about Ra.One, and we'll be back at some point in the near-ish future talking about another movie. And yeah, if you like this content, please like and subscribe to both the Indie Rise channel and also Kicking the Seat. And yeah, join us back here next time, whenever that is, whatever that is. Thank you very much, and take care.